One evening, my grandfather and I sat quietly on the veranda while birds were returning to their nests and an old book rested quietly in his hands. He looked at my phone glowing in the darkness and asked, "How can you spend an entire hour scrolling and remember nothing while a single page from a book stays with you for years?" I looked at him for a moment. "Maybe books mattered more in your time, Grandpa, and people don't have the patience and time to read anymore," I said. Grandfather smiled. "No," he said, "people do not lack time. They have simply forgotten how to sit alone with their own thoughts." "Modern life is very strange," he murmured. "People wake up and immediately stare at screens. They travel with them, eat with them, and sleep beside them. It is because their brains have been meticulously trained by billions of dollars worth of clever algorithms designed to keep them watching just one more reel. They don't care about your growth. They care about your attention because your focus is what they monetize. In return, they give you a cheap hit of dopamine, entertainment that vanishes the very second you lock your screen. And when the phone finally goes down, you're left with a heavy, restless emptiness. You've consumed 100 things, but did you actually receive anything? Did a single bit of it stay with you?" There is a moment of silence between us. To show me the cost of that choice, he spoke of two friends, Ravi and Arjun, who traveled home on the exact same bus every evening. Ravi staring down at his phone, his thumb moved like it is possessed. Up, down, swipe, scroll. 10 seconds here, 15 seconds there. A dancing video, a meme, a headline, road rage, and another reel. His face is completely blank, as if he left his body somewhere else entirely. While Arjun, sitting with a physical book, his face changes as he turned the pages. He smiles, he looks concerned. His eyes move at a steady, deliberate pace across the lines. By the time they reached their stop, both had consumed an hour's worth of information. "Tell me, my child, who do you think is having the deeper conversation?" Ravi stepped off the bus, feeling tired, restless, and strangely empty, while Arjun walked away feeling calm and thoughtful. "Do you know why?" Grandfather asked, gently touching his grandchild's shoulder. "Because one was merely being entertained while the other was having a profound conversation. Reading isn't just about absorbing information. It is the ultimate act of communication. Science shows that when you read, your brain doesn't just process data like a computer. It actually simulates the world of the story. When a character walks through a dark forest, the physical movement centers in your brain light up. When they feel heartbreak or joy, your own emotional centers activate. You are not a passive observer. You're actively living the experience. The author is communicating directly with your mind, and your imagination is answering back. Two distinct minds meet across time and space, even if they lived hundreds of years apart, and even if the writer has long passed away." Grandfather's voice grew deeper as he spoke about the epidemic of modern loneliness. He observed that millions of people feel utterly isolated today, despite being digitally connected to thousands of faces online. A person struggling with anxiety might believe that nobody on earth understands their pain, until they pick up a philosopher, a novelist, or a biography, and suddenly discover that human beings have always feared, failed, loved, and suffered in the exact same ways. "Books remove loneliness," he said, "because they remind us that our struggles are not unique. Others have walked these exact same dark roads before us." In olden days, during nights, parents used to tell bedtime stories to their kids. Kids try to imagine scenes, ask curious questions, and spend a quality time with parents. "Reading is not a measure of raw intelligence," Grandfather explained. "It is trained attention. The mind becomes what it practices. On the other hand, social media trains the brain to crave constant distraction. A new face, a new joke, a new opinion every minute. It is no wonder young people today find it increasingly difficult to remember things. They have simply forgotten how to focus. Books demand the exact opposite. They ask us to slow down, reflect, and imagine. Books won't show random and unnecessary topics like social media. Book is like a friend, a companion, and we need a different companion in every stage of life. Like the right teacher appears when the student needs them. Stories teach us empathy, philosophy teaches us meaning, biographies teach us courage, psychology helps us understand our minds, and spiritual books teach us wisdom. Grandfather fell silent for a moment. The evening had become darker. I looked at the old book resting in his hands and realized something that had never occurred to me before. Perhaps my problem was not that I disliked reading. Perhaps I had simply never learnt how to begin. But where do I even start? I finally asked. I have no idea when to read, how much to read, how to remember what I read, and most importantly, when to stop so that I can pick up the book next day without fail. Grandfather smiled on hearing my set of questions and continued. People often believe they must completely abandon their phones to become readers, but that is a trap. You don't need to change your whole life overnight. You often see books in shelf and phone beside the bed. That should be reversed first. Just keep a book right beside your bed. Read for 15 minutes every morning and it feels like meditation. This discipline aligns rest of your tasks in line. I asked why 15 minutes. He told, your brain fears effort more than reading itself. Instead of saying I will read 50 pages, tell yourself I will read 10 pages. Ancient monks often began spiritual practice with just a few verses each day. They believe it removes pressure of reading and created consistency. In the initial days, begin to sit by making tea and sitting in the same place. The brain begins associating these actions with reading. Eventually, the ritual itself triggers the desire to read. Don't forget to have a pencil while reading. It makes us passively absorbing information to actively exchanging ideas. This makes reading personal. While reading a sentence, read slowly, reflect on it, sit quietly, and return to the words. Because the goal is not finishing the book, the goal is allowing the book to change you. While reading each book, you feel like I am meeting another human mind. This transforms books from objects into relationships. Carry a small paperback while you travel. These small moments slowly build a bulletproof habit. Because when you scroll, the entire world speaks to you. But when you read, you finally begin speaking with yourself. Read 10 pages at night. You can feel the noise inside your mind slowly begins to settle, resulting in a quality sleep. Keep in mind to deliberately stop at the most interesting moment, like read until something exciting happens, then stop. Your brain naturally wants closure. The next day, you'll want to return. This is called the Zeigarnik Effect in psychology. Always ask this question before going to sleep. What one sentence should I remember today? He stood up and before he turned himself to his room, he said, people think they must force themselves to read. That is not true. You do not force friendship or any relationship. You spend time together. Slowly, the book begins speaking, and one day you realize you have been waiting all evening to hear its voice again. That moment is usually when reading stops being a habit and becomes a relationship. Before you leave, I want to ask you something. What is one sentence, one book, or one idea that stayed with you for years? Leave it in the comments. Someone else may discover the book that changes their life because of your answer. Thank you.